Yo guys, what's up, it's Krypz, and today I'm going to be showing you all the best obtainable shaders in Season of the Lost. Now I'm going to be excluding flawless raid shaders as well as shaders from the Brightest store, so that newer players will be able to obtain them. But yeah, we'll leave timestamps throughout the video if you want to skip ahead, and if you do find this video useful then please drop a like and consider subscribing to the channel. And without further delay, it's time we get straight into the shaders. So starting off with the first shader, we have Dreaming Spectrum. Now you can get this shader from the Last Wish raid upon dismantling weapons and armor with the shader already applied, and the reason why I picked this shader is because it's one of the easiest to use in the game. You can blend so many different pieces together with this shader and pretty much have no issues, and the purple on the cloth is also really nice with a nice pinkish pearlescent. Now this shader does also create a bonish look on plating, so this will be a great mix with the young Amakara spine, or if you want to pair it with the dinosaur pieces. And with this shader you will find that the glows on pieces will go this nice gold. And this is also a fantastic shader to use on weapons, as you can see with the Fatebringer here. Here it is on the Palindrome as well, some really nice golds and purples here. Now moving on to the second shader, it is Dreaming Cast. Now just like Dreaming Spectrum, this drops from the Last Wish raid, and as you can see when compared to Dreaming Spectrum it is quite different, with the plating going blue and gold. Now the blue isn't as shiny as the gold here, as you can see, and it does have a bit of a worn down look. But what I think really stands out with this shader is this really nice burgundy colour. This is seen throughout all the cloth and adds a nice contrast to the blue and gold. And if you are using pieces with glows, then it will go quite a bright green. As you can see with the Pathfinder Helm as well, it does go a bit of a limeish colour, but something I would not recommend with the shader is putting it on weapons. It just goes a blue and silver, and honestly if you have Dreaming Spectrum then I would just use that over this. Now moving on to the third shader, we have Rosescale. Now a lot of you may already have this if you play a lot of Trials or Crucible in general, but if you didn't know, you could get this shader for ranking up your Valor. And as you can see with this set, it is perfect if you want to go with a full red look. Now something I do want to point out about the shader is that it does have a bit of a scaly carbon fibre texture, and this is more noticeable with some pieces. Now you will get some secondary silvers coming through as well, with a very light blue glow, and this glow can vary depending on the armor piece. It can sometimes be a darker blue or a light blue, and the great thing about this shader as well is that it also looks pretty good on the weapons. The only bits that are slightly different is that the glow colour on the Fatebringer does go red, whereas usually on the armour it would just go a blue. And then here it is as well on the Palindrome. It doesn't look too bad, although for me personally, I don't really like this scaly texture on weapons. Now moving on to the fourth shader, it is Cryptic Insignia. Now you can get this shader from opening both secret chests in the Deepstone Crypt raid. It is fairly easy to do, and it's just a reward from a triumph. Now I've gone ahead and used it on my main set here, and as you can see it does look really awesome. The shader uses some nice light greys and then a nice blue on the plating, and as you can see when the light hits the blue on the plating it does go a bit of a pinkish colour, and if you use the shader on any glow pieces then it will go a cyan blue, and pretty much throughout all the pieces I tested the shader will pretty much make all the cloth grey. Now moving on to weapons, as you can see this is what the Fatebringer looks like with the shader. The blue is a very shiny looking game, whereas the grey has a bit of a matte texture, and this also looks really nice on weapons like the Palindrome and also weapons like the Ignis Hammer. Now moving on to the fifth shader, it is Bitterpearl. Now you can get this shader from the Pearl of Glass Triumph in the Vault of Glass raid, and I will leave a link to Jav's video in the description if you want to know how to complete this triumph. Now this shader is going to be great for any of you wanting a mostly white look, and as you can see up close the shader is more of an icy blue than a full white. And I do want to point out, if you use plating then it will incorporate some silver. The glow on Empyrean here does go a blue and also a white. This is because with some pieces it will use the white glow, and with other pieces like the Contender it will use the blue, so the glow colour will vary depending on the armor piece you're using. Now moving on to weapons, with the Fatebringer this shader goes a mostly white look. Now something really interesting about using this shader on weapons is that it does create an animated texture. I don't know if you could see this because of YouTube encoding, but it does create this like dot texture going downwards. And this isn't just apparent on the Fatebringer, it works across all the weapons in the game, and you could also see this quite well on the Reed's Regret. So now moving on to the sixth shader, we have Lunar Gloom. Now you can get this shader from the Shadowkeep expansion, and what you have to do to obtain this is collect all 9 bunny collectibles. Now this will take a few weeks to complete, and I will leave a guide in the description. Now this shader is quite similar to Cryptic Insignia, although there are a few differences. For example, the secondary colour on plating is black, making a darker look on plated pieces and following the same sort of looks as Cryptic Legacy. And something else that's different about this shader is that I can either shade this lighter colour or a purple. Now the glow colour you can expect from this shader is pretty much just a nice blue. It's consistent throughout all glow pieces and has no secondary glow colours. Now this shader is quite different on weapons as well, having this nice dark matte finish, and then some parts of the gun using some pink and blue as well. And then here is the palindrome as well, using a bit more of that blue, helping to stand out a bit more. Definitely a nice shader I'd recommend picking up. Even if you don't like the shader on the armour, I still think it's a really unique look for the weapons. Now moving on to the 7th shader, we have Blueshift Dreams. Now this shader drops from Dreaming City weapons and armour with the shader already applied. Now I wanted to feature this shader as it's quite unique, having an animated texture. As you can see, the plating does have this wavy look. It's a bit like a water reflection effect, and also applies on cloth pieces as well. Now the colour itself is quite a nice blue with a secondary silver, and the silver also shares this wavy effect. Now the glow colour you can expect with this shader is white. It's not too bright and also complements the other colours in the set. Now moving on to weapons, as you can see, the shader still keeps this animated texture, which with some weapons like the palindrome, the darker blue does become more apparent. And I would definitely recommend this shader to people who like using the Trials weapons. Both the Ignis Hammer and the Reed's Regret look really unique using the Light for the Lost emblem. So now for the final 3 shaders, I've picked them from the shader bundle in the Eververse archive. Now for any of you new to the game, I would highly recommend picking up this bundle as it will only cost you glimmer and give you access to all the year 1 Eververse shaders. Starting off with the first shader here, we have Metro Shift. Now this is a great shader for any of you wanted to create a darker look, although I do want to point out that you may have some blues coming through on some pieces. Now I do want to point out that at the time of this video coming out, Amethyst Veil will be in the store. It will cost you around 300 bright dust and is pretty much a better version of Metro Shift. Now looking more into the shader, as you can see on pieces, it gives it a bit of a stitching look. Although on some plated pieces, this shader will create a somewhat grid texture with a bit of shine. So if you do just want a matte look, then I would just stick to leather and cloth. Now the glow, as you can see, is a bit of a light purple. Now compared to Amethyst Veil, they shade it almost the exact same way, although the glow is much lighter on Metro Shift. And moving on to the weapons, they get a bit of a shiny dark look. Here's the palindrome as well, incorporating some more blue. So I definitely think this is something that's worth using if you like darker looks on your set and weapons. So now moving on to the 9th shader from the shader bundle, we have Arctic Pearl. Now this for me is one of my favourite purple shaders, and I think it's fantastic for many different pieces. It's got a really nice shine to the shader and mixes some really nice pinks and purples, and has a really nice white glow to match with the lighter look. Now the great thing about this as well is that if you do plan on using cloth, it's fairly easy to pair with plating, as the cloth also goes this really nice purple with some parts going a lighter colour. Then moving on to the weapons, the shader is still quite similar to the armour, with the weapons going a bright pink, and with this weapon doesn't really shine that much and goes with more of a matte look towards the back end of the gun. And then here's the Reed's Regret as well, with a very light pink look. And then the final shader from the shader bundle is Golden Trace. Now this is a really nice black and gold shader with some nice carbon fibre on plated pieces. Now I chose this shader as it's quite versatile and can work from many different sets. I would more so recommend plating though, so you could get more of that gold coming through. Although if you wanted to, you could just use this on cloth and leather pieces, like the Pathfinder boots here can be pretty good for a blackout look. And I'd also recommend the Great Hunt pieces with the shader, as it's obtainable and looks really nice with it. Now as for the glow colour on the shader, it is a nice light gold, although I have found that the glow lining on the Imperium pieces does get removed. Then moving on to the weapons, you will find that most of them will have a carbon fibre texture with some accent golds. This looks alright on some weapons, although I'm not a huge fan of the carbon fibre texture. And I did find with the Ascendancy, it does have a pretty nice gold look, and the carbon fibre however isn't as noticeable. So yeah, they're pretty much what I think are the best obtainable shaders of Season 15. I try my best to provide some good variety and give you newer players something to chase, and feel free to let me know which shade is your favourite in the comments below, and maybe some other shaders you'd recommend other people using. But yeah, if this video did help you out, then please drop a like and consider subscribing to the channel. Also go ahead and join my Discord if you haven't already. We have over 6,000 members and is a great place to share and get some advice on your fashion. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you all in the next video.